Hi friends, I'm Sherry, and today we're going to be talking about Egyptian walking onions. We're going to talk about how to use them, how to store them, and how to propagate them. Let's take a quick minute to talk about why they're called Egyptian walking onions, or as some people have said, they just call them walking onions. The reason for that is the onions actually grow this onion set at the tops of them, and they get so heavy that they fall over and they actually take root into the ground, which starts another Egyptian walking onion. So then the Egyptian walking onion grows up like these ones again, and again falls down, takes root, and builds another Egyptian walking onion. Hence the name walking onion. This was my very first Egyptian walking onion patch. I have pulled a lot of them out since then and replanted, but look at the jumble of mess that's going on in here. When you plant the little bulb sets, they grow so many onions. And so what I wanted to show you specifically are these two right here. So they have fallen over and they are now sitting on the dirt. And so I haven't lifted them up to see whether or not they've actually taken root. Okay, so they have just fallen over. But I guarantee you that if I come back here in a week, that they will have taken root into the ground, and that will be a new Egyptian walking onion patch for next season. Let's talk a little bit about the bulb. You'll see here that I've pulled 3 of them, and all 3 of them are slightly different sizes. That could just be the amount of sun, water, whatever they're getting to actually grow to the size that they're growing. Now, keeping in mind that I give these onions 0 TLC. And I'm not saying I give them 0 TLC and then I water them or fertilize them. I do nothing. I can't stress enough how much or how little I do for these onions and how well they grow. So when I'm out here watering all of my annuals and I'm worrying about, do they have enough water? I don't want them to wilt up. I'm not even thinking about these onions. I never fertilize and I never water. They get whatever nature wants to give them. And that's it. That's the other amazing thing about this onion is it is maintenance free. You do nothing and it produces. So these onion bulbs at the end, like I said, are usable like you would a regular onion. My family will run out here, they will pull the onion out for me, and I will use it in whatever I'm cooking that night for dinner. Keeping in mind that this is a perennial onion. And so once you pull the entire stalk like I've done today, that onion will no longer grow where this onion was. In order to grow that perennial onion for next year, you need to take one of these little onion sets and throw it in the hole. It's as simple as that. Throw it in the hole. That's all you have to do. And again, I don't check on it. I don't think to myself, that's a small onion. It's just starting. I better give it some TLC. I just throw it in the hole and go about my business with my garden. So some people have asked whether or not you can store these onions. I haven't stored them over winter. And the reason for that is I do have space in my garden to grow my Spanish onions, my red onions, onions that I store over winter. Now, I will tell you that I have dried these before and I've kept them in my fridge and used them for up to about a month. but I don't normally have enough of them left over to see how long they would store. So that would be a really good experiment to try out to see how long these onions can store. I pulled roughly 100 of these Egyptian walking onions out of the garden last year. I did replace them. As you can see behind me, they're growing, so I've obviously replaced them. But I pulled roughly 100 of these out of the garden, cleaned them up, put them through my food processor on the slicing option, and then I used my food saver, which is a system that removes the air out of plastic bags that they provide you. And I was able to put roughly 10 pounds of sliced onions in my freezer. It was amazing. So throughout the winter months, if we wanted to do a stir fry, I would grab one of those bags. It was roughly a pound of onions. If I wanted to make a soup or a broth or whatever I was doing, I would pull out one of those bags. They're already sliced. All I had to do was let them thaw out or throw them in the pan and put the lid on low and let them thaw easily like that. They're amazing. So let's talk about the ends of them now. So it's quite interesting because these onions, if you just look at them behind me, they're a little bit wild right now. But when they start growing these little bulbs at the top, they look a lot like a year two onion. And every June when my mother-in-law comes here, she visits more than that, but every June they drive down to Nova Scotia. So they come here as, to have dinner as their goodbye for the summer. And every year she walks around my garden to see what I'm growing and always comes back and says, "Your onions, do you want me to break those flowers off, the seeds?" And I'm like, "No, those are my Egyptian walking onions," because they look very similar to that. So this year I have a 3x8 bed, raised bed, that I want to plant my Egyptian walking onions in. For those of you that know, that have been following along with my channel, you know that I'm moving and I'm going to be leaving the new buyers all of these onions. And so I need to make sure that I start a patch at my new place. So I am going to be planting all of these little ends. So that is one way to use these, and I'm going to show you that later on in the video. I'm going to take you to the property and we're going to plant 200 of these little bulbs. I have pickled these before. They're delicious. So we pickle them and then I'll pull them out when I'm making the salad. I'll cut them in half. I'll throw them on the salad. Everybody raves about the pickled Egyptian walking onions. They're so good. Another thing that I've done with them, because there are so many here that you can only give so many away. I am screaming from the rooftops how amazing these onions are, and I've been giving them away every year to friends and family, but I always end up with hundreds of them. So sometimes what I'll do is I will take the larger ones and I will remove that onion paper that's on them, throw them in a Ziploc bag, and then when I am cooking throughout the season, the winter season, and I need onions, I'll pull them out. As I mentioned, I am going to be planting roughly 200 of these. So we need to get started and start pulling them off before the rain comes. But I want to show you quickly how easy it is to harvest these little onion sets. So basically I'm going to go around and I am just going to break them off. It's that easy. This one onion set that I just pulled off, there are 6 Egyptian walking onions on here. So I pulled one and I got 6, just like that. One thing that I want to mention though about these little onion sets is that if you know you're going to be replanting them, don't pull them off 2 weeks ahead of time because you have time. You want to make sure that you are pulling them off within a couple days of actually planting them. They are not like those onion sets that you buy at the store in April that are in the mesh bag and they're all dried out and they look like little tiny onions. These are not like that. If you plant these after they have all dried out, you will not get an Egyptian walking onion. It only works if you plant them when they're fresh. So I'm going to pull them today. We're going to walk around together. We're going to pull off 200 of them, and then we're going to head over to the property. Hey guys, so we're at the property now and we're ready to plant all of these Egyptian walking onions into this bed. But I wanted to show you how big some of them actually get. And so this here came off of one onion. So there is 4 here. And so just to show you how you break it apart, they are in there tight. And so there's one there. So I would just plant that like I would a normal onion. And so they're kind of pretty too with the purpley red color that's on them. And so look at this. Like, this is already starting to grow the onion. And so I'm going to plant it so that the greenery is showing out of the dirt, and it is going to be really fun to see how many I plant, how many grow next year, and just the progress of this bed. Mentioned earlier, this bed is 8 by 3. I figured I'd be able to get close to 200 of them planted. I was able to get 180, but as you know, when you plant one, you get many. So I may have planted 180, but I just planted a lifetime's worth of onions. So all of those onions that I picked earlier, I still have a ton left in the basket, and I barely made a dent on the ones that I took them from. So keep a watch for my garden tours, because this may not look like very much right now, but in a matter of a week to 2 weeks, this bed is going to be thriving. If you don't have Egyptian walking onions in your garden, get them, find them, plant them. Thanks for spending time with me.